Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing, got a really bad habit. If it moves, gotta grab it, fuse like a magnet. Lose, won't have it till I'm doomed in a casket. I ain't playing, got a weird mind. If you work 8 hours, I'ma work 9. I'ma stay in power for a long time. Get up, nah, I ain't a quitter. Toss me the ball, I'm a really big hitter. Big picture, I'm a straight killer. Rising the song to the highest bidder. Got juice, got gas, I'ma move fast. New shoes, new tracks, like who's that? I'm new, come back, better than last. Yeah, it's a new me, never gonna look back. Never gonna look back. Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same, cause that's what it takes.
Good morning, everybody. This is Appa Brian at Appa Baseball Classics. Today we're going to do a picks to post show, my pre-mock draft. A little early. I'm probably going to make some changes along the line. In fact, I'm pretty sure I will. But this is what I've got so far, what I think the first round of the draft will look like. And also, we're going to give, after the my mock draft, we give a little bit of a channel update. Greatness is on the clock. They've been working 24 hours a day, some days, and preparing for the 2023 draft, which is at Union Station, Kansas City, just across the street from where I live. If you happen to catch the Santa Fe Place condominiums notation, it was up for 4 seconds. That's the building I live in, behind the Crown Center Hotel, just up the street and across the street from Kansas City Union Station and the World War I Memorial. You saw the south side preparations, or actually the north side from World War I preparations for the stage before Union Station. But there are also preparations going on south of the World War I Memorial. There's a large, probably a few 100-yard field behind that. And that's where the NFL activities will be taking place. And I'll be going through those once they get those going, and giving you an idea of the pre-draft NFL activities at the World War I Memorial, just steps away from Union Station, where the draft will take place. Well, here's my mock draft. Carolina, by trade, moved up to number 1. I think they're going to take a quarterback. For a long time, I thought it was going to be C.J. Stroud, because Frank Wright, the new coach of the Carolina Panthers, has never worked with a quarterback under 6'2". He has always favored taller quarterbacks, but he said a week ago that may not be the case. They had high grades on Russell Wilson when Russell Wilson came out. Would he take C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young of Alabama? Here's what I think. I think number 1 will be Bryce Young, Alabama, because he just has a certain amount of magic to him. I know C.J. Stroud had a fantastic game against Georgia in the playoffs. He had a fantastic career. He calls himself a ball specialist, ball placement specialist, and he has really shown that. Houston is number 2, and of late, some people are rattling around that Houston may not pick a quarterback. I still think they will. I'm not sure they've got really their quarterback in-house. They could trade up, or they could pick the best defensive player, which may be Will Anderson Jr. But I think they'll stick with quarterback. At least that's the way I feel so far. I know this: if they don't pick a quarterback, that's going to really add value to Arizona's pick. Arizona will probably trade back in the draft to a very quarterback-hungry team that will want to pick C.J. Stroud. In my mock draft, I'm not doing any trades. There were quite a few trades last year, and there may be this year, but I really haven't studied that out yet. I need to take a day and look at each team's picks and see who's got enough wealth and enough motivation and need to try to draft up. Just off the top of my head, I think Tennessee is likely to try to move up in the draft. But as far as first draft picks, trades, I'm not ready to call those quite yet. Well, so I think Houston is going to take, as you probably figured it out now, I think they're going to take C.J. Stroud of Ohio State University. That leads us to the number 3 pick, Arizona. Arizona could use some help at wide receiver. They could use some help at defensive line. And there is a defensive lineman out there that would really fit the bill for them. And that man is Will Anderson Jr. of Alabama. I think he'll be the 3rd pick of the draft. That takes us to the 4th pick of the draft. That's Indianapolis Colts. There's a chance Colts may want to trade up. I really haven't thought that through yet to try to get C.J. Stroud if Houston doesn't take Stroud. But I think they're kind of liking, and people have linked quarterback Anthony Richardson. I do think the Colts will take a quarterback. People have been linking Anthony Richardson because Shane Steichen has helped train the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who got paid yesterday. He got his bag, and he deserves it. But I think that Steichen might be intrigued with Will Levis Jr. out of Kentucky. A lot of people are looking at Will Levis, and they see his numbers, his size and weight, and his ability to move, and they see a Josh Allen. I'm not sure. Josh Allen, his first year was not Josh Allen. It took a little bit of development to get to where he is now. And I think the Colts might be very happy with Will Levis of Kentucky. That brings us to Seattle for the 5th pick. And I think Pete Carroll's got defense in mind. I think he may have a defensive lineman in mind, and that will be Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia. He had a bad pro day. He had a bad combine, but his agent says he's worthy of a top 10 pick for sure. And I think Pete Carroll knows how to work with young players. I think Pete Carroll will have a plan. And I think Jalen Carter, if he's there, will be in his plans. Next pick is the Detroit Lions. I think the Detroit Lions will still be looking for defense. They struggled with Aiden Hutchinson last year, edge rusher. This year, the Lions have signed a cornerback, Cam Sutton, very good cornerback. They signed another cornerback, Gardner Johnson from Philadelphia, a very good cornerback. So I think the Detroit Lions are still looking defensive front, and I'm thinking defensive line over linebacker. I'm not sure there's any linebackers worthy of a top 10 pick. I think that's hard to defend. But I think there is an edge rusher worthy of a top 10 pick, and that will be Tyree Wilson, edge rusher from Texas Tech University. I think the Detroit Lions will get some help with Aiden Hutchinson with another pass rusher on the other side, Tyree Wilson of Texas Tech. Next, we come to the 8th pick in the draft, the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons, I'm thinking for them, either offensive line or defensive end. There are still some very good defensive ends out there that would be out there. Nolan Smith of Georgia comes to mind. They've signed some secondary help. Okuda from Detroit. They've signed Bates, safety. They signed Calais Campbell on the defensive line. So they made some defensive moves in the offseason. I think they're going to look for the best offensive tackle out there. And I'm thinking Paris Johnson out of Ohio State for the Detroit Lions. Or for the let me back up. I just got off in my picks here. We're looking at Detroit, Tyree Wilson. We should be on Las Vegas. Sorry, 7th pick. I skipped ahead on my list. So let's go back to Vegas. Vegas has severe defensive needs. They have some young defensive linemen. Jerry Tillery still has possibilities. I would say Max Crosby is fantastic on the edge. They may be looking for help at linebacker, which I don't think there's any linebackers that are, like I said, for Detroit. I'm not sure there's any top 10 picks in the linebacker group this year. But there's a defensive back out there worthy of a top 10 pick, and that would be Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon, 6'2". The trend is for taller cornerbacks, and especially in the AFC West, where you got those tall San Diego receivers, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. There's other tall receivers around the league. And it seems to me to be the trend to try to get taller defensive backs where you can get cover guys who can cover that are taller. Minnesota has not got, the Vikings haven't got that memo. They still got some short cornerbacks out there that keep getting burned. But Christian Gonzalez, I see going to Las Vegas. All right, now we're with Atlanta, and that's where I think Paris Johnson's going to go. I think the Atlanta Falcons have offensive line needs and defensive end needs, and that's why I was talking about Nolan Smith of Georgia, but I do think they're going to like Paris Johnson. He is a top 10 worthy pick for sure. The 9th pick is the Chicago Bears, and I think this is a no-brainer. They're going to be looking for somebody to protect Justin Fields at quarterback as he progresses to becoming more of a downfield thrower. Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle from Northwestern. I think Chicago reaches right into their backyard and picks Peter Skoronski. The 10th pick is the Philadelphia Eagles, and this is probably one of my first really big surprise picks. I should know that teams don't pick running backs in the first round. Kansas City picked Clyde Edwards-Helaire a couple of years ago. He's not really panned out as a number 1 draft pick. Still on the roster. We may trade him. He hasn't been traded yet, but he's been injured quite a bit. Bijan Robinson has been compared to a Saquon Barkley type of player. Some people, Daniel Jeremiah has Bijan Robinson as his 3rd top player in his top 50 in the draft. And I think this would be a great pick to replace Miles Sanders. B.J. Robinson of Texas, running back. Philadelphia has 2 picks in the draft. And I do think that in their other pick, which is the 30th pick, they're probably going to look for somebody like a defensive lineman. Hargrave goes away. They want to get some help for Jordan Davis. Their pick from Georgia last year. They might go edge rusher, though. We'll talk about that at the 30th pick. But I think that for defensive line or even an edge rusher, they can wait later in the draft. If they wait on Bijan Robinson, they're not going to get him at the 30th spot. and I think they're going to take him. All right, number 11, the Tennessee Titans. Strongly feel like Tennessee may move up. There's possibilities they're going to trade their premier running back or Tannehill, their quarterback. That may happen before the draft, which will change a lot of my thinking here with my mock draft. But I think they're going to go with an offensive tackle to replace Llewellyn, who they lost. And I'm thinking Broderick Jones of Georgia would fit that bill. Next, the Houston Texans. I have them taking C.J. Stroud with the number 2 pick. They're back on the clock with the number 12 pick. And I see them picking Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver of Ohio State. What a pedigree. Garrett Wilson of the Jets had a great rookie year last year. Chris Olave of the Saints had a great rookie year last year. Smith-Njigba, he might do the same thing. And if he's there when they pick C.J. Stroud and he's there at the 12th pick, they can couple together college teammates. And I think that would be a great move for the Houston Texans. All right, 13th on the clock are the New York Jets. I believe the Jets will be looking for help on the offensive line. They had a great one, number 75. I keep forgetting his name, but he was outstanding. But he got injured about the middle of the year. They need more depth on the O-line. And whoever goes there, I think that would be great for that player because I thought the Jets offensive late last year played with the most technical skill of any other line. Maybe Philadelphia and Kansas City's offensive line. So Darnell White, by Tennessee, if he's that pick, it'll be to his benefit and also be to the New York Jets' benefit. Next on the clock is the New England Patriots. I think they'll be looking for defensive backfield help, and that could be Joey Porter Jr., cornerback from the Penn State Nittany Lions. He is a great cover guy, very physical corner. He strikes me as a very Bill Belichick type of player. Next, 15th is the Green Bay Packers. Here's another thing. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be back with Green Bay, but that trade hasn't happened yet. So if the trade does happen, I think it should happen before the draft, but I don't think it's going to happen until the draft. It might happen draft night. But if they don't do it before the draft, they can't get the Jets' 13th pick. And I don't think the Jets' 13th pick, they're going to let go of that. There might be some picks next year for Aaron Rodgers trade. But anyway, things could change depending on what happens between Rodgers, the Packers, and the Jets. But for the 15th pick, I've got a tight end. And in my opinion, the best tight end in the draft this year is Dalton Kincaid of Utah. Some people might have Myers of Notre Dame going here, but I think Dalton Kincaid has better receiving possibilities. I would go with him. Washington Commanders are the 16th pick. Things are looking up in D.C. with the sale of the team. And as Snyder and his regime go out the door, I hope they're not, I hope they would not want to sabotage the new regime coming in. Sort of like a series my wife and I started in on Apple Plus TV, the Ted Lasso show. Here's an owner that hates her ex-husband who previously owned the team and wants to hurt him as much as possible. So she's trying to sabotage the team. So I hope that's not going on in DC, but I think Washington Commander fans have a lot to look forward to. I think they're going to pick a defensive back. Not that guy. That guy. Devin Witherspoon, cornerback of the Illinois Fighting Illini. I happened to watch him play in games, college games on TV a few times last year. And he is possibly the best cornerback in the draft. I mean, he's right out there with Christian Gonzalez. I put Gonzalez for Vegas because he's kind of on the West Coast with them, and they probably are more familiar with him than Devin Witherspoon. But I've got Devin Witherspoon going to the Washington Commanders. Next on the draft is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers have got holes everywhere. But they absolutely need to upgrade their offensive line position. And there's, DeJuan Jones is for Ohio State may still be there. But I also think they need help in the defensive backfield as well. Might be Kaylee Wingo of Georgia. But I'm kind of liking Deontay Banks of Maryland, quarterback, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 18 is the Detroit Lions. This is their second pick. First one I had them drafting an edge rusher, Tyree Wilson of Texas Tech. I'm pretty sure about that pick. I think that's where they're going to go. I think their next pick will also be defense. And I think they're going to go with a linebacker, Drew Sanders of Arkansas. I got Drew Sanders going 18th. That brings us to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They got Baker Mayfield as their quarterback. They could be a organization that may want to trade up and try to get one of those quarterbacks. But assuming they don't trade up, I think they're going to go offensive line and pick Anton Harrison, offensive tackle of the Oklahoma Sooners. Seattle's next pick, and they're 20th. And I'm telling you, if the draft falls this way for the Seattle Seahawks, they're going to have Jalen Carter with their first pick, and they might have quarterback Anthony Richardson with their next pick. I think that would be a Pete Carroll pick. Anthony Richardson would have a year or two to be under the tutelage of Seattle's quarterback, who's not done yet. He'll be there. And I think Anthony Richardson would go to Seattle, would be a great pick for both the team and the player. The next organization is Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers will still want to get help for Justin Herbert, and that could be a wide receiver. Jordan Addison, wide receiver of USC, to the Los Angeles Chargers. Kind of in their backyard. They should be extremely familiar with this talented receiver. Jordan Addison to the Chargers. 22, the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know what to say about the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Who knows? That's got to get resolved here before the draft, I would think, because the Jets would be possibly wanting to try to sign Lamar Jackson. I think it was a mistake for him to go without an agent. I know he's trying to save money, not paying an agent. But looking at Hurts' deal, I think he could have probably done pretty well with an agent and stayed with the no drama and stayed with the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens say they want him. I think Lamar Jackson needs to give in and go back to Baltimore. I think Baltimore will be looking for offensive line help, but if they look like they're going to lose. I think they just put an exclusive tag on Jackson. That's another show talking about what that means. But I think Baltimore may go offensive line here. DeJuan Jones of Ohio State, massive right tackle of the Ohio State Buckeyes, going to the Baltimore Ravens. 23, Minnesota Vikings. Vikings absolutely need defensive help. They blew some large leads, and their appearance in the playoffs really pointed out their defensive deficiencies. And they're across the board. I think the only position that the Vikings are pretty set on is a linebacker. I think they've got a bunch of good linebackers on that team, but they need defensive line help. They need secondary help in the worst way. For them, I've got Miles Murphy. I think Miles Murphy, defensive edge rusher from the Clemson Tigers. I see him going to the Minnesota Vikings. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've got an edge rusher for Jacksonville, and I forgot to put his picture. Oh, here it is. I do have his picture up here. 24 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, edge rusher Nolan Smith out of Georgia. Steady stream of successful Georgia defenders marching into the NFL. Nolan Smith, I think, will be the next one. And he'll be a teammate with, I think they got a linebacker, Nakobe Dean. I could be wrong about that, but I think they have Georgia's linebacker, last year's draft class. Let's go to 25, New York Giants. If anybody needs a position group here, it's the Giants and wide receivers. And Jalen Hyatt of Tennessee would be a good place for a pick right here. Jalen Hyatt, Tennessee wide receiver. Dallas Cowboys are 26 on the clock, and they're going to be looking to replace Dalton Schultz. Also may want to add offensive line help. And I think the running back room, Jamar Gibbs will still be there. If Philadelphia doesn't go with Bijan Robinson, they will charge the podium and try to get Bijan Robinson, but I think Robinson will be gone by this pick. So I think they'll go tight end. You got Myers at Notre Dame, but I think they're going to go with Georgia's big-time tight end, Dwayne Washington. I think he's about 6'7", 275 pounds. He is a great blocker, although his techniques could use some work. The Cowboys, McCarthy likes to go with will want to go with some two tight end sets, blocking for Pollard, and he's almost like having an extra offensive tackle blocking. So in this sense, this pick would make sense to adding blocking power to the offensive line and also get a big-time tight end. Dwayne Washington of Georgia tight end for the Cowboys. 26th pick is Buffalo. They need somebody to run with Matt Milano at linebacker. They lost Edmonds. And I think they're going to go with Trent Simpson of Clemson at linebacker. 28 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Had a hard time deciding for Cincinnati whether to go offensive line. They added Orlando Brown Jr., but they could use more depth on offensive line. But they also lost Von Bell and Bates, their two safeties. So I think they're going to go defensive back safety. Brian Branch of Alabama seems to make the most sense for me for the Bengals. New Orleans is on the clock next. Dennis Allen is a pretty defensive-minded coach, and I think he's going to be thinking defensive line. And Pittsburgh's Kalijah Cansey. He has been compared to Aaron Donald. That's kind of hard to put that kind of comparison on somebody, but he has the same style of player. And he had a fantastic combine showing with his speed and strength at the combine. So Kalijah Cansey going to New Orleans, 29th pick. 30th pick, Philadelphia Eagles will be back on the clock. Again, I think they're going Robinson with the 16th or with the 10th pick. And the 30th pick, I'm picking an edge rusher, Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. Edge rusher Lucas Van Ness. That brings us to the last pick, 31st pick. You say there's 32 teams, but remember Miami had to forfeit their pick. So the last pick of the draft are my Kansas City Chiefs. We've got three major position groups we need to address. That's offensive line, tackle specifically. They got Jawan Taylor, who will probably move to left tackle from the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that was a great signing. Andy Reid was talking about him just a couple of days ago, and he's very excited about having Jawan Taylor come to our offensive line. But we also lost Andrew Wiley. And, man, he developed into a very, very good right tackle. It took some time, but by the Super Bowl last year, Andrew Wiley was outstanding at right tackle. He is a large man who can really play. But he goes away in free agency. And so I think right now the Chiefs are looking at Lucas Niang to take Wiley's place. Niang started for about half a year, a couple of years ago, then he injured his knee. And then he was out a long time with that knee injury. And I think I just had the impression last year when he came back last year that they felt like he really wasn't up to what he was when he was playing before the injury. And I think they're concerned about him, what kind of shape he's in. So it might be Lucas Niang at right tackle, or they may be looking to add another tackle. Or everybody's pounding the drums for the Chiefs about adding wide receivers since they lost Smith-Schuster. They're working out. They've got a handle on what they've got with wide receivers. They're with, like last year, teams are doing their OTAs. Well, OTAs for our quarterback class and wide receivers and running backs is in Texas with Pat Mahomes. And like last year, they're working ahead, and those are pretty serious workouts. They really proved very fruitful last year, that approach, and they're doing it again this year. But I think they may still be having wide receiver in mind, and Zay Flowers may still be out there. Some people think Zay Flowers is the wide receiver who gets the most separation of any of the wide receivers that are available this year. Now, in general, I think I've been hearing a lot of NFL teams through the grapevine thinking that the wide receiver class is not that great this year. But by the time you get to the 31st pick of the draft, I think Zay Flowers is deserving of that pick, and I could see him operating in our offense very well. Sky Moore is going to get more passes. Kadarius Toney is going to get more. Chiefs signed two receivers. Ricky James is one of them. But I think they're thinking of punt returning and kick returning in those terms so that Toney and Sky Moore don't have to do that this year and that they can just focus on their receiving responsibilities. Kansas City runs a complicated offense. And at times I think that first year for Sky Moore, he was a little bit overwhelmed. Plus he had to run back kicks, fumbled 3 times. So I think he'll be the second year, I think he'll be less overwhelmed. Noah Gray was overwhelmed. He was a tight end they drafted 2 years ago. And then last year he was much better. So it takes a while for receivers to get plugged into Kansas City's offense, but I do think Zay Flowers could work. and that's who I've got Kansas City picking if they don't go offensive tackle. Anyway, tune us in on the 27th, Thursday night, 6:30. My YouTube channel will be live streaming during the draft in real time and submitting our picks. I'll be going in with Rob's channel. Rob put up his mock draft a couple of days ago, and I'm sure he'll do probably more shows on the draft, and I will do more shows on the draft between now and then. And I may change my picks as possibly trades happen or more information comes forth. It's a tricky thing. Teams don't want to tell you who they're going to draft. They want to leave themselves open to trade offers. Houston and Arizona have already been fielding multiple trade offers, people who want to draft up and get those quarterbacks. So they don't always give out information. I'm not going to say they're going to lie about who they're picking or who they're looking at, but I think some teams will give out misleading information to throw others off and try to protect picks that they want to get. So picking the draft is a challenge. But last year, Rob's show had a and he's done this for a few years, but I was on it last year and I got 11 picks in the first round correct. I had a blast. That was the most fun. And then the other guys did very well too. I think there were several guys who got more correct picks last year on that show than, say, for example, Mel Kiper Jr. How many did Kiper get right last year? 3 out of 32. He got 1, 2, and 4 correct. Missed on 3. Missed on 5 through 32. I don't know how that guy comes back year after year and gets paid for being the draft guru and do so poorly year in and year out. Todd McShay only got 4 draft picks correct last year. Daniel Jeremiah of the NFL Network only got 4 draft picks correct last year. Peter King got 5 correct last year. And I know probably before a fall, I may not get anybody correct this year. But I had a great year last year. I did way better than Mel Kiper Jr. So tune us in on Thursday night. I may have a show up probably Thursday day from the NFL Experience places too. A lot going on here in Kansas City. Thanks for watching. Have a good day, and may God bless.